Hello and welcome back to the Smoky Mountains podcast. So thankful that you're here for episode 2 here on whatever your podcast platform is. Thank you for listening where you are. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for subscribing to our channel. Wherever you are listening or watching this from, please be sure to give it a rating. If you're on a podcast platform, please be sure to head over there and give us 5 stars if you enjoy the podcast. That helps push it out to more people so they can see it. Additionally, if you're on YouTube, be sure to like it and comment on the video because, again, it helps us. So thank you so much. And if you share a review on one of the podcasting platforms, we'll be sure to pick some of those and share them on the podcast. For instance, heading over to YouTube right now, Jeremy from Nerds on the Go said that was awesome. We're looking forward to this new series. So cool as well to hear you mention this for months and now see it in action. Kyle said, absolutely love this. Awesome work. Eric said, absolutely loved it. Bob, you knocked it out of the park. Great job, Scott and Vicky. Again, Scott and Vicky, thank you so much for coming on and being my guinea pigs, as it were. Fantastic guests. Had an enjoyable time chatting with you, and so far, everyone that I've interviewed so far, both before and after the actual recording is over, we sat and talked for a little while afterwards. So I've really enjoyed these conversations. Annie said, I really enjoyed watching this. Great job. Helen said, love the podcast. Leo said, really enjoyed the first podcast. Thank you. And Noah had said, excellent little Nero's hat. 1 cheese pizza, please. If you haven't seen the first episode, it is top 5 things to do in the Smokies for Christmas. So be sure to check that one out if you haven't already. So we are heading into episode 2 here. We have another guest that's going to join us and give their top 5. But before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about this time of year. So I'm recording this podcast in January. So anytime you watch it, it'll still be applicable. But watching this in January, I remember when I first started coming down in the Smokies, the first time I ever came in January, February time, and it was dead, guys. And for those who have lived in the area or have been coming for years, know exactly what I'm talking about. Businesses a lot of restaurants even would shut down, but attractions would be very, very few and far between, really limited hours or not open at all. So to go down when it's completely dead and not a lot of attractions are there to what it is now in the Smokies. Now things close earlier. I think you'd be hard pressed to find too many places that are open past 9 o'clock in the Smokies anymore, 9 p.m. Some close even earlier. But the dynamic has really changed. There used to be an off season when it comes to the Smoky Mountains. And correct me if I'm wrong, to find those slow times, you really have to look for very specific weeks. A week after like a rod run or a week after a holiday where everyone's going back to work or back to school. Those are the times you really have to find where, and the indicator, little secret here, the indicator a lot of times is the pricing of hotels. If you notice that the prices have really bottomed out, that's usually a pretty good indication that the week that you're booking is probably going to be a slower one. No guarantees, but that's been my experience. But man, from the first time I've come to now, the way things are has changed so dramatically. And that's just over the last several years. I mean, that's not even, we're not talking decades. I mean, that's within the last 5 years, it's really changed. And, at this point, I don't see it going back or changing. I mean, it would take some sort of significant event to really change the trajectory of guests and visitors to the area. People getting frustrated with pricing of hotels certainly deters some, but as long as we're out here willing to pay the prices that they're setting for hotels and some of the cabins, I mean, it's they're going to keep raising those prices, and it's going to keep staying very, very busy for the majority of the time. Of course, there's key areas as far as some of the worst times to visit in the Smokies. We're going to be talking about that on a future podcast. But yeah, guys, this time of year, this was it. This was the dead time. This was the downtime for you to come if you just wanted to avoid the big crowds, enjoy some peace and quiet. But there's been some days, especially the weekend. The weekends anymore in the Smokies, regardless of the time of year, are typically going to be busy. Weekdays, if you can take time off this time of year and you want to enjoy it, they're probably not too bad. But yeah, just not the same. I mean, it's not going to be the same. I feel like ever again. So, I want to talk to you about this episode's sponsor, allaboutthesmokies.com. Allaboutthesmokies.com is a place for you to be able to plan your Smoky Mountain vacation, to find some discounts, to find out what's coming in the future, to really know fully what's going on in the Smokies. Head over there to see all that information, but also to sign up for the newsletter, because once a month, allaboutthesmokies.com sends out a newsletter, lets you know what's going on and what's coming up. Very, very pertinent information. So be sure to go over to allaboutthesmokies.com and subscribe to the newsletter. You won't regret it, guys. Great information at allaboutthesmokies.com. Okay, so our guest for this episode, I'm so excited. We're going to bring him on right now. All right, so we have Erik Dobell here with us, and you're with the Impossibilities. Help me out with the name. The Impossibilities.
Impossibilities, Magic, Mind Reading, and Mayhem at the Gatlinburg Space Needle. Yes.
Yeah, I knew I would mess that up, so it was impossible for me to get it right. That's why I needed you to jump in.
Or improbable, yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It means the world
to me. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell the listeners and the viewers here a little bit about yourself and about what you do there in Gatlinburg.
Sure. My name is Erik Dobell. I'm a mentalist, and I do a little bit of magic also. So we do a magic and mind reading show is what Impossibilities is. The other thing we call it is an interactive magic show, because a lot of people online, after they're seeing the show, that was one of the things they were talking about, is how interactive it is. So we kind of throw that out there sometimes too. I'm from upstate New York. I've been doing magic for about 20 years. And we're going to be hitting our 8th season here in Gatlinburg at the Iris Theater at the Space Needle in March, believe it or not. So it's pretty exciting. That's
awesome.
Yeah. So you want to know how I got into magic and all that too?
I would love to know that. And while you're at it, how long have you? So it's 8 years of the show. How long have you been in the Smoky Mountains? Is that those things happen at the same time, or
they did? They happened at the same time. I guess I was probably here about 9 years. Because we well, I'll back up and then it'll all make sense in a second. But
sure.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional wrestler. And I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I'm about 5'5", and I'm probably about 180 now, but it's a fat 180. And I was much smaller when I was a kid. And I was about 21 years old. I realized that wasn't going to happen. There's no 5'5" professional wrestlers. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was in a mall in Ithaca, New York one day, and I saw a magician. And this was the first time I ever saw a magician. And he was selling tricks from a kiosk in the middle of the mall. And it just blew my mind, right? I'd never seen magic before in person. So I bought some tricks for him. I went home, I learned how to do them, and then I just completely fell in love with magic. What's funny about this story is I went back a week later to the same mall, same kiosk, same guy, and he was selling sunglasses. Oh, wow. Because the first magician I ever saw was not a magician. It was just a guy that sold overstock.
Right. That's funny.
And I think about him a lot because he changed my life. And if he walked in right now, I would have absolutely no idea who he was. And probably vice versa. We'll never meet each other again. We don't know who we are. And he had a significant impact on my life.
That's crazy.
But yeah, and then after I got into magic, I started doing tricks at bars and at friends' parties and things like that. I was also going to college at the time and studying theater, doing community theater, and then all just sort of meshed together. Next thing I knew, I was doing magic for money. And I about 15 years passed, give or take. I might have had more than that. My timing is all messed up. It's very tangled up in blue. So I'm not exactly sure the whole timeline, I guess. But at one point, I met my business partner, Chris, and he suggested doing a two-person magic show called Impossibilities. And that's how we started out. It was a two-person show. We toured it in North Carolina for 2 summers. That's where we were living at the time. And then we talked a little bit about finding an area like Gatlinburg to put the show at, but we didn't talk very seriously about it. So I'm in Nashville one day visiting my wife's parents, and I see that there's a mentalist at the Gatlinburg Space Needle. And there's not a lot of mentalists floating around. So I decide it's pretty close to where, Gatlinburg is. So I'm going to get some tickets and go see this guy. So I call the Space Needle up. The guy on the phone says, well, the mentalist isn't here anymore. He hightailed it about a week ago. And I said, okay. Do they want another show?
That's awesome timing.
The next thing I know, we're talking to the owners of the Space Needle, and we opened the show in March of 2016.
Wow.
And that's sort of the abbreviated version of how I got into magic and how I got here. And like I said, it's going to be 8 years in March, and I'm still shocked every day I wake up, and I'm like, all I wanted to do was be in show business and to create and to perform for people. And I still wake up some mornings like shocked this is my job, and I get to actually do this.
Yeah, I mean, doing what you love is kind of foreign, and I think anyone listening can identify with that. When you find a job that both pays your bills and fulfills that part of you that says, this is what I was called to do, this is what I my life purpose, whatever, something I truly enjoy. Not too many people get to say that.
No, and I don't take that for granted. I have it made here in town.
Now, let me ask you. So, the Gatlinburg part, it was you knew this was something that you needed to do as far as taking that show to the next level. A tourist town's perfect place for it.
That was more of a Chris thing than me. I didn't know towns like this existed. Sure. I had been to Dollywood or Pigeon Forge a few years before. Our wife's parents took us to Dollywood, and when they said we were going to a Dolly Parton themed amusement park, I said, "What?"
Yeah.
But that was the first time I'd been to Dollywood. Was a few years before. I'd never heard of Gatlinburg, and I didn't know towns like this existed, or else I would have done this 20 years ago.
So, for you, like, how much more does it enhance your experience there? I'm thinking for me, it would be a dream to be waking up, in any town there in the Smoky Mountains. Is there what are there drawbacks? I mean, obviously traffic would be one, but I mean, for you living there day in, day out, like, does it get old being in a tourist town?
No, I love being in a tourist town. I love being in the mountains. I'm not a real outdoorsy guy. But there are a lot of days where I'm just driving down the road and I'm like, Jesus, I'm looking around. I'm like, I can't believe I live here and I get to see this every day.
Absolutely.
I like living in a tourist town. I think the downside, there is traffic, although once you get used to it, you can avoid most of it. You still get stuck in it, but things like the Rod Run, I'm sure you've heard of that. Yeah. If you know it's coming, then you can plan around it. So the traffic is not a huge thing for me. I guess the only real drawback for me is that, like, I have to order things online a lot. Like, if I need paper, I can't just go down the road and get it. I got to drive to Walmart, which is like a half hour away.
Yeah.
So I find myself having to, for basic necessities, ordering it off of Amazon a lot more than I'd like to. So that's the big thing. Like, we don't have a Target because everything's sort of for tourists. So we don't have a lot of the things that you would have in like a normal town. But even that with the internet, it's I guess my problem with ordering stuff off of Amazon is I feel guilty.
not sporting local or whatnot. Putting money
Yeah,
in.
I'd rather just
Yeah,
go down the road and buy it. It feels kind of wasteful to me to do that. But it's I don't know, first world problems, I guess.
yeah.
It's not
Well, and
it's not a big inconvenience.
to be fair, you running to Walmart and I running to Walmart are two different things. Where you're at it, I mean, you go at the wrong time. There's no just
Yeah.
running in and grabbing something and coming right back out either. So the part
It
with
might
the drive
take
and
forever.
everything, yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I don't
They might not
blame
even
you for
have
that.
it.
Yeah. So, beyond your show, like, how would you describe the cultural arts scene in the Smoky Mountains? I mean, are there obviously there's local artists when it comes to crafting
Oh
and
yeah.
different things, but musicians, performers. I mean, are there any that you admire, that you make sure that you indulge yourself in some of their performing
Oh, good
arts? Or
question. Yeah. Well, there are some local performers. Niels Dunker. Do you know Niels?
I know of him. I don't know him personally,
Yeah,
but
you
yeah,
should have him on
absolutely.
here. Niels Dunker, he's like the world's greatest juggler, and he's right here in Pigeon Forge.
Okay.
You should get him on here and talk to him.
Okay.
Ray Adams is a very good magician. There's a handful of magicians around here. Music wise, there's this group called the Warners, I think. It's either
Okay.
Warners or Werners. It's something like that because I always think of Animaniacs when I hear their name. But it's like a father and his two kids, his two daughters. I don't know how old they are, like probably 16 or 17 or 18 or something, kind of in that range. But they do sort of like they do like 50s music, and like the one girl
Okay.
has like a stand-up bass and stuff. So I like them quite a bit.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
see
and
them a lot. They're all
you
over
probably
town. I
catch
see
some
them on
different
Facebook
local
all the
music.
time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they really stick out to me. Um, and then yeah, there's a lot of performers around here. There's Danny from the Comedy Barn, of course.
Mhm.
Slim Chance, who was in the Opry. I don't know if he's still around anymore though. So there's a lot of really good performers in this area. Did I
Yeah.
answer that question at all?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so
I guess musically, the Warners are the ones that really struck me. Like, wow, this
yeah.
is a really neat act. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you think of, and I'll be honest with you, when we first started coming to Gatlinburg, your show was
Uh-huh.
already a thing, and I knew it was there. I had no clue that it was in the back of the Space Needle, and once you were introduced to me through Erik from Smoky Mountain Family, and once we saw your show, now anyone who's going down is looking for something to do, we're sending
Yeah.
them your way, because it's such a unique experience to anything that you
Thank you.
find there in the Smoky Mountains. Absolutely love it. Explain to someone who wouldn't understand the difference between a mentalist and a magician.
Sure. So mentalism is a branch of magic, despite what other mentalists will tell you.
Yeah.
It is a branch of magic, and the simplest way for me to explain it is like a traditional magic show. You'll watch somebody, and they will like saw a woman in half or make a coin vanish, things of that nature.
Sure.
Mentalists deal with the mind. So when you go to see a mentalist, they're going to do things like telepathy, clairvoyance, psychokinesis. They're going to be doing things that you would normally associate with psychic phenomenon. So it's more like a head game kind of a thing.
Yeah. So we saw we were down in Texas on a mission trip, and we went to a restaurant, and they had a close up magic gentleman that was there, and I recorded it, and at the time he was blowing my mind. I went back because it's just what people do. I slowed things down. And pretty much every single trick I was able to see. It was sleight of hand, and it was beautiful. It didn't take away from me. It made it more impressive because I could never do it. I went back and I watched your stuff. There were things that you did I could not wrap my brain around. Like, it was amazing. And
Thank you.
I'm going through, I'm slowing down. I'm like, okay, well, but what if? Nope, that doesn't make sense. But what if he did this? Nope, that's not it either. And went through. So highly recommend your show.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
The key is we allow people to record the show, by the way, when they come to see it. A lot of magic shows don't allow that for various reasons, but we let people do that. So So, if you get grandma on stage or something, if you come to see the show,
Sure.
you can take pictures, you can record it. And a lot of the stuff I do is designed so that hopefully they go back and look and they won't figure out how it's done. So I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah.
So living in the area, you probably have some like favorite spots to unwind. Are there any local cafes, bars, hangout places that you frequent or recommend to others?
Oh, geez. Yes. Let me, there's a lot of great coffee places around here. I'm trying to remember there's a Painted Post, Painted Bear. Ooh, I wish I knew you were going to ask me about coffee.
It's no problem. But
yeah, there's a lot of great places to get. I'm a coffee guy. Yeah, I like to go and get coffee and like a donut. I like to drink. I don't generally go to bars, so I'm not sure what the I know the Shamrock across the street's real popular, but I don't know what a lot of the drinking joints are around here. I do have a lot of favorite restaurants I like to go hang out at.
Well, that's a great segue. That's a perfect segue.
Yes,
so,
to
Erik,
our sponsor, Better Sleep.
Better Sleep. Hey, if you're out there, Better Sleep, and you come across this, go ahead and sponsor. We don't mind.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. We can do Sherry's Berries.
There's plenty out there that we can absolutely hook our wagon to. I can be bought and paid for.
Masterclass.
So this it's a good segue, but it's not a segue to a sponsored deal. It is a segue to
something I have a list for.
What we call our top 5. So on every one of these podcasts, on every one of these episodes, we invite our guests that's come on to give us a top 5 in something to do with the Smoky Mountains. And that could be anything from restaurants to hikes to attractions, their favorite towns in the Smoky Mountains. Wherever it is, we invite our guests to come on here and share that with you. And that's what we're about to do. So Erik has agreed to come on here and give us his list of his top 5 restaurants in Gatlinburg.
Yes. I mentioned that I ballooned to 180 pounds.
Yeah. It's easy to do, man.
Some of these places are the reason for that.
Sure.
So these are in no particular order, by the way. This is not a top 5 list. Well, it is a top 5 list, but in any particular order.
Not 5 to 1. Yeah, I got you.
Yes, exactly. So have you been to the New Orleans Sandwich Company?
I have not.
Goodness gracious. Okay, or New Orleans Sandwich Company, I think. I don't know how. I'm from upstate New York, so I talk funny. It's below, if you guys have not been to Doc's Magic Shop here in Gatlinburg, you should go, and it's right underneath that. The Doc's Magic Shop's on a second store, and this is underneath that. And these guys, they left New Orleans after Katrina back in whenever that was, and they decided to open up a New Orleans-themed restaurant here in Gatlinburg. It is authentic New Orleans food, so they got the poor boy sandwiches, and they got the red beans and rice. In fact, we frequently get red beans and rice to go, and then we make nachos with it at home.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, if you like New Orleans food, this is a great place to go. And it's also different from a lot of the places here in Gatlinburg because, it's New Orleans. So that's the first one on my list. That's one of my favorite places to go to. Smoky Mountain Creperie is another favorite. That's one I go to a lot. That also contributed to my weight gain because it's right next door. It is a creperie right next door, and they also do coffee drinks and frappuccinos and ice drinks, things like that. But the main thing is that they do crepes. They do sweet crepes, savory crepes. I eat there probably more than I should. But very nice people, and it's right there, and it's also really good food. You've been to Tennessee Jed's, though, right?
Oh, I love Tennessee Jed's. Yep.
Yes, Tennessee Jed's is the one I go to a lot. Kind of like Southern comfort food, I guess.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, a lot of fried stuff. Very good. They just opened up a new restaurant down the road, too.
Yeah, their breakfast is like I got their breakfast sandwich, and it's one of the best breakfast sandwiches I think I've ever
amazing.
Had. Just so good.
They got a good Reuben, too. Yeah, they have incredible food. Have you been to the Lauders?
Actually, I haven't. There's a list of like really popular ones that somehow have escaped me in all of our trips down. I haven't.
So somebody that worked here was telling me about the Lauders because they were like in the New York Times for barbecue.
Wow.
And good Lord, like it's the best barbecue I've ever had in my life. It is so good. So unassuming. It's just like this restaurant that you would just very easily miss. And it's one of those places where when they run out of food, it's like, sorry, bye, see you tomorrow kind of a thing. Oh my God, it's so good. Yeah, if you like barbecue, you have to go to the Lauders here in Gatlinburg.
Do you have like a go-to dish there?
No, we usually get like a platter kind of a deal,
Gotcha.
with a bunch of stuff. Yeah. I'd say probably the ribs. You know, I'm a big rib guy, and it's hard to find good ribs. They have good ribs. They also have really good pork. Just go there. Just go there and get everything. Just eat everything they got. It's so good. And then the last one on my list is right here at the Gatlinburg Space Needle, Slice Pizzeria, which I think, did I bump into you at Slice after the show that one time? Yes, so you know all about Slice.
There weren't too many places that were open at that time of night when we came through, and Slice was still
Slice is open pretty late. New York style pizza.
So good.
I would say the size of your head, but it's actually like 2 or 3 sizes the size of your head.
Yep.
It is giant. Yeah, you can share it with somebody. The pizza, just cut it in. Don't tell them I said that because they want you to buy 2.
No,
of course,
I won't share. I won't share.
You won't share. Yeah,
nope, they can get their own.
It is like, I mean, if I'm exaggerating, tell me, but it is like half a pizza, like one slice, right? Pretty close to it.
Yeah, close. I'd say maybe somewhere between a quarter and a half, but like it isn't. It isn't necessarily a normal pizza size, though. Like these are giant pizzas that they're cutting into to quarters, just about. So yeah,
it's good pizza.
Very good, greasy, like the kind of pizza that's just so easy to eat. Yeah, yes. I agree with that one completely.
Yeah, it's so big you should get a T-shirt for it.
Yeah. You can wear it as a T-shirt. They're so big. So it's they're really good. And like I said, very few places, especially this time of year, very few places are open late or later in the evening.
Yeah.
We were
very
up against the clock. Yeah, we were up against the clock, and we're looking, and we hadn't had dinner yet. We're like starving, and we walk out, and the smell of pizza hits you in the face, and definitely worth
even the fast food places close early around here. People will call and ask sometimes, like, what's the nightlife around here? And I'm like, there really isn't any. Like, everything closes at like 10. But the Space Needle's open till like, I don't know, midnight or something. Depends on time of the year. And Slice is open. So you can always count on coming to the Space Needle or Slice. You know, you could dance
Space
here.
Needle, I think one of the most underrated attractions in the Smokies is the Space Needle.
I tell people all the time it's the best view of the Smokies because not only do you get to see a 360-degree view of the mountains, but you also get the city as well. And then when it's snowing, oh my goodness! If you can get up here when it's snowing, it's you're gonna get some Instagram shots up here.
Some Instagram-worthy pictures.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that list with us.
No
eating
problem.
is definitely one of my favorite pastimes when I'm there in the Smokies. It's like we hear about people who go and they'll get groceries for the week, and I'm like, I don't understand that. Like I can get groceries at home. I can make stuff at home. I don't want to do it when I'm on vacation, but to each their own. But anyway,
I know people. I don't want to name drop businesses, but I know people come here and they go to like a place that they have in town back home, and I'm like, "What are you doing? You're on vacation."
Yeah, my daughter's a picky eater, and sometimes we have to pull into Burger King. And like, this feels like what a waste. But that's kind of what she does. But so thank you. And if you're listening on YouTube or on a platform that allows commenting, please comment down below. What's some place that we missed that you love? Go ahead and comment down below.
Yeah.
Tell us what's your favorite restaurant in Gatlinburg. I really like this list. It kind of goes. You can tell you're local based on the list. It has that local feel to it. So, and if you don't have a place to comment and you just want to let us know what you're thinking, you can email me at bob@allaboutthesmokies.com and be sure to let me know what's your favorite restaurant. And we may share your comments on a future podcast. So Also, while you're out there, be sure to give the podcast a 5-star rating. It really helps us in pushing these out to more people, so people can find us. Thank you, Erik, for joining us. Where can people find you?
Oh, they can find us at the Iris Theater. Blech. Let me start over. They can find us. I know you're going to leave that in.
I feel you.
At the Iris Theater, located at the base of the historic Gatlinburg Space Needle here in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. If you're talking about how people can find us online, you can find us at iristheater.com. That's theater spelled with an E-R. And we are also active on all social media sites. So Facebook is the big one, of course. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. We try to be on all the big social media sites. And go ahead and follow us, tag us. If you found us here on the podcast, let us know.
Yeah, I would love to see you guys out there commenting on Erik's social media and letting him know. Hey,
and one more quick thing. Sure. I think we started talking about this a little earlier, but at the recording of this podcast, it is early January 2024. We're open. We're open all year. Mm-hmm. A lot of attractions, especially the shows, do close down around here. We're one of the few ones that do stay open. We do 3 shows a week, if we have the people.
Yeah.
It is a ghost town out there, but we're open all year. So if you're coming down during a slow time, give us a call.
Yeah. Absolutely, and like I said, I would highly recommend it to anyone who's looking for something different to do. If you're done with the mountain coasters and the different things that you do every time you come down, and you want something new, be sure to check out the Impossibilities Show. You will not regret it, and make sure you tell them that the Bob from Smokies Plus or Bob from the podcast sent you. I'd love for him to be able to hear that from you guys. So. Thank you again, Erik, for joining me. It's been
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Quite an enjoyable chat. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
So great having him on. That was just a really good experience overall. As I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, we stayed on for another half hour afterwards and sat and talked. So really enjoyed that conversation with him. To be able to do what you love and do it in the Smoky Mountains is an incredible thing. So Erik Dobell from Impossibilities Magic Mind Reading and Mayhem. Make sure you go and tell him that Bob from the Smoky Mountains podcast sent you and that you saw his podcast, and I'm sure he'd love to hear about it. So that'll do it. Guys, thank you for another so much fun. I'm having so much fun recording these. Just another fun podcast. Thank you for supporting it. If you can leave a review, it really helps with the growth of this podcast. We want to be the number 1 podcast in the Great Smoky Mountains. That's our goal. So this has been another podcast from the Great Smoky Mountains. We hope you have a great day. God bless.